Hi, I'm Dr. Ryan Buffalo, and I'm one of your school board members, and I will kick off the reading of Frindle today by Andrew Clements. We'll start with Chapter 1. If you ask the kids and teachers at Lincoln Elementary School to make 3 lists, all the really bad kids, all the really smart kids, and all the really good kids, Nick Allen would not be on any of them. Nick deserved a list all of his own, and everyone knew that. Was Nick a troublemaker? Hard to say. One thing's for sure, Nick Allen had plenty of ideas, and he knew what to do with them. One time in 3rd grade, Nick decided to turn Miss Deaver's room into a tropical island. What kid in New Hampshire isn't ready for a little summer in February? So first he got everyone to make small palm trees out of green and brown construction paper and tape them onto the corners of each desk. Miss Deavers had only been a teacher for about 6 months, and she was delighted. That is so cute. The next day, all the girls wore paper flowers in their hair, and all the boys wore sunglasses and beach hats. Miss Deaver clapped her hands and said, "It's so colorful." The day that after Nick turned the classroom thermostat up about 90 degrees with a little screwdriver he had brought from home, all the kids changed into shorts and t-shirts with no shoes. And when Miss Deaver left the room for a minute, Nick spread about 10 cups of fine white sand all over the classroom floor. Miss Deaver was surprised again at how creative her students could be. But the sand got tracked out into the hallway where Manny, the custodian, did not think it was all that creative. And he stomped right down to the office. The principal followed the trail of sand, and when she arrived, Miss Deaver was teaching the hula to some of the kids near the front of the room. Just as a tall, thin, shirtless boy with chestnut hair was spiking a Nerf volleyball over a net made from 6 t-shirts tied together. The 3rd grade trip to the South Seas ended suddenly. But that didn't stop Nick from trying to liven things up. Lincoln Elementary needed a good jolt once in a while, and Nick was just the guy to deliver it. About a year later, Nick made a great discovery while watching Blackbird Discovery. One night he learned on the TV show that red-winged blackbirds give a very high-pitched chirp when a hawk or some other danger comes near. Because of the way the sound travels, the hunter birds cannot tell where the high-pitched chirp is coming from. The next day, during silent reading, Nick glanced at his teacher, and he noticed that Miss Avery's nose was curved, kind of like the beak of a hawk. So Nick let out a high, squeaky blackbird, beep. Miss Avery jerked her head up from her book and looked around. She couldn't tell who did it, and she just said, "Shh," to the whole classroom. A minute later, Nick did it again, louder, beep. This time was a little giggling going on from the class, but Miss Avery pretended not to hear the sound. And about 15 seconds later, she slowly stood up and walked to the back of the classroom. Without taking her eyes off his book and without moving at all, Nick put his heart and soul into the loudest and most annoying chirp of all. Beep! Miss Avery pounced. "Janet Fisk, you stop that this instant." Janet, who was sitting 4 rows away from Nick, promptly turned white and then bright crimson. "But it wasn't me, honest." There was a catch in Janet's voice, as if she might cry. Miss Avery knew that she had made a mistake, and she apologized to Janet. "But someone is asking for big trouble," said Miss Avery, looking more like a hawk every second. Nick kept reading, and he didn't even make a peep. At lunchtime, Nick talked to Janet. He felt bad that Miss Avery had pounced on her. Janet lived in Nick's neighborhood, and sometimes they played together. She was a good baseball player, and she was better at soccer than most of the kids in her whole school, boys or girls. Nick said, "Hey, Janet, I'm sorry you got yelled at during reading. It was my fault. I was the one who made the sound." "You?" said Janet. "But how come Miss Avery thought it was me?" So Nick told her about the blackbirds and that Janet thought it was pretty interesting. Then she tried making a peep or two, and Janet's chirps were even higher and squeakier than Nick's. She promised to keep everything a secret. For the rest of Nick's 4th grade year, at least once a week, Miss Avery heard a loud beep from somewhere in her classroom. Sometimes it was high-pitched chirp, and sometimes it was a very high-pitched chirp. Miss Avery never figured out who was making that sound, and gradually she trained herself to ignore it, but she still looked like a hawk. To Nick, the whole thing was just one long and successful science experiment, and Janet Fisk enjoyed it too.